What's up, guys? My name is Jarmy. I'm back, and we're gonna speak about the art of evolving in silence. The first thing of evolving in silence is you come to the end of yourself and your ego. Ego is one of the biggest things that holds back so much people. Like, it keeps them in a sense of pride or even in emotional state where logic is devoid, and there is no logic. And without logic, you cannot make rational decisions. You can't move with clarity, and clarity is everything, honestly. Without clarity, who are you? What purpose do you have? And so you need to have that ego death to be able to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. To become successful, you must come to the end of yourself. And that looks like just isolation, in a sense, disconnecting from everything that is distracting you from the person that you want to become. Anything that might just be stimulating you. It could be, your phone, social media, it could be people, it could be a relationship. But you have to understand that in silence and in solitude, that is truly where you begin to grow, you begin to find yourself, you begin to let go of the ego, because you're able to just see yourself for what you truly are without any noise. You could see all the flaws, all the dirty bits that you hide from yourself by filling in all the gaps that you have in your day with music or with entertainment or likes of that sort. But then through the ego death, you're able to find a clear sense of clarity. And through that clarity, you no longer are moving or just flowing through life. That is one of the biggest and most dangerous traps. It kind of is very common with my generation and the people my age, my peers, that they float through life. They just go with the flow. And to a certain extent, that is good, because it allows you to be present in the moment and kind of not worrying or stressing about things. But it's dangerous for your future. It's detrimental to growth and becoming who it is that you want to be. Because if you're just flowing through life, just going about whatever happens in the day, there's no purpose, there is no goal, there is no drive, and there's nothing that you are working to achieve. And you need to be working towards something in life. You need to be able to have a goal, because without that, you're just gonna end up at a destination that you don't want to be at. A lot of people, they drift through life, and look at where they end up. They end up working retail, they end up working McDonald's, they end up working these dead end jobs. And I'm not saying, shame or throwing dirt at whoever does, because I work a part-time job right now. But you need to be able to be doing something in that solitude, something in that silence, to fill in and to be able to help you get to where it is that you really want to be. And that's the thing. And once you are living in this sense of silence, once you are living in this sense of solitude, you no longer live for the cheers, and that means you will not die by the booze. What does that mean? If you live for the cheers, you live for the acknowledgement, you live for the praise, you live for the appreciation. That means if you don't receive that type of stuff, you are not going to be able to function. You are not going to get the gratification that you were meant to give to yourself for achieving the goal, but because you did the thing for other people. And so that is why it's so important that you have to go to solitude. You have to have a level of sacrificing, pulling away from people, not disconnecting, completely cutting them off. I did that. I'm not gonna lie. I have no friends, but it's very extreme and it's very difficult in times where, you would like to reach out to people, but you do have to pull away from them for a certain time. And I remember what I used to do a lot, my friends and things like that. I always tried to convince people, oh, come on, let's get on this, or let's try this business, or, let's start making content, let's start doing this. And, it was no end to that, because they simply were not me. They simply did not care as much. They were at the bottom of the mountain. I saw myself at the top, and I was trying to take the path to get up there, but they simply were not. They were satisfied in where they were at the time they were. And that doesn't mean that they're not going to change or come to the realization later in life, but you taking it upon yourself to save them in that current time, to bring them up out of that, and to, drive them up there, giving them pretty much a free pass. It just takes so much. It's so draining from you. And so that's why I say that you kind of need to separate yourself from that. You need to separate yourself from these people. And people are going to hate. People are always going to hate. And that's the thing. If you do things because of you genuinely want to do them, and if you do things in solitude, you simply kind of don't care as much about what people are going to say. But if you are doing things, in the back of your mind, oh yeah, that, people are going to think this about me, or I'm going to be able to flex on them. When you get that hate, it's going to be detrimental to you. It's going to just rock your boat. It might even lead you to quitting what it is that you're doing. And what's the point of that? And so at the end of the day, you're living this life for you. Who's going to bed with you at nighttime? Of course, if you don't have a partner, it's only you. Like, you're the only one that has to sleep with yourself at night. So do something that'll make you happy. And, in the solitude, these imaginary pressures, these imaginary expectations that people put on us, and, you even put on yourself at times, they fade. You realize you have so much time. It really doesn't matter. Who is it that you're trying to impress? Are you just doing it because that's what social media told you, that you're supposed to be this and that at a certain age? Social media is a lie. It's, everybody's highlight reel. They're never going to show you how they truly feel. A man could be in a Rolls Royce, but he's fucking crying and he's losing himself and, losing his wife and his kids and all that. Or it's rented and things like that. We live in the LARP generation now. Everybody is trying to seem like there's something to become something. And, yeah, it's cool and all, but as fast as you come up is as fast as you're going to fall. So you kind of need to be able to do this genuinely, do it the right way. If you want sustainability, if you want to live a life that is going to last, something that you could pass on, a legacy that you could build. There's a quote that says, a man, he builds shade that he would never get to enjoy. It's something like that, but you kind of want to be working towards something like that in your life. And so once you are in this solitude, you kind of realize these expectations that people have put on you, or even that you put on yourself, because a lot of times I put deadlines on myself. I put expectations because it's like I want to appease something to myself or look like something. But it's like, at the end of the day, what does that really do? People don't really care as much. Everybody's living in their own bubble, their own world. Nobody cares about if you're going on vacations. Nobody cares if you're the first person to get a car or if you're the first person to move out, get your own crib. Nobody really cares. And so it's kind of like stay in your own lane, do your own race. And through solitude, you're able to focus on that own lane. I had said in a previous video, once you start to focus on other people's lanes, you start to accidentally merge. That's the thing when you drive, when you aren't focused on the road, you're just going to drift, and, you don't want to do that. And through this solitude, you truly find who it is that you are meant to be, what God put you on this planet for. What is your purpose? What is it? Who is it that you want to become? What is that shadow that you want to leave behind? For me, I want to leave some type of legacy. I want to make impact on people's lives. I want to be able to make people grow. I want to teach everything that I know, through these videos as much as I can to anybody. Like, I constantly throughout my life, I'm trying to teach people, help people, but people don't acknowledge it. People don't care. And so that's why I feel the need to make these videos, because the people in my environment, like I had said previously, they're not trying to go to the tip of the mountain. They are not. But I know that this video will find the people that they are trying to, that God will put it right in front of them. And so I have so many messages, so many teachings that I'd love to get across to people. And that's just an example of me finding who it is that I want to be. I want to be an educator. I want to be almost like an older brother to everybody, the older brother I wish I would have had to help me through all the flipping hard times that I had to go through in my life, And I'm not saying, oh, my life was horrible, but there are plenty of times, I had to go through rough shit by myself to figure it out. And I wish I could have had somebody to just, guide me and lead me. And, there's a lot of other things that I want to do, never kind of chain yourself to one thing. You could be anything that you want on this earth. And you realize that through solitude. You realize that through the silence. You realize that there is no kind of limitations. There is nothing stopping you becoming who it is that you want to be. And through that, then you realize you have so much time. There is no rush. You are in your own lane. This race was created. Your path is so separate from anybody else's path. It's so different. Nobody is paths exactly the same. Your path might look red and lava and fire and volcanoes, but my path is, a walk in the park. But that walk in the park is like 10 miles long. Your path is only 1 mile long, but it's more treacherous. And so like that, then you realize, you could just stay down and grind, that level of sacrifice that, okay, I see this path that I'm on. I see that it's time to focus on this path. You're able then to just kind of just work at that and just work and work and work. And now that the noise is no longer there, you don't care to appease or to do it in like a set time limit. And then, you're not trying to pop out. You're not trying to, I guess, flex on nobody. So it's like you stay down, you make decisions that are more worthwhile. Like instead of going out, buying a brand new car, buying a Hellcat, that you don't have no money for, and it's something that you're not going to use as an asset, you stay down with that Honda that you have because you know that it's going to help you to push you to who you want to become. Even though you got 60K in the bank, you could go get that Hellcat if you want to, but it just doesn't make sense. And that comes with it, with staying down and with grinding. And that's kind of the whole process and point of just doing this in silence. You're not trying to do this to please nobody. You're doing this for yourself. And the only person who sees this is God and you. And that's such a beautiful thing. It truly is. And at the end of the day, you emerge. You no longer fit in the rooms you once inhabited. You can never go back, but you won't even want to, And what I mean by that is, think about it almost like a puzzle piece. Like you fit perfectly in that box. You were a part of it. I guess poured into it, and you were just a part of that environment. But now you've outgrown your little pond so much, and it's like you can never go back there. A shark is not going to live in a puddle. A shark needs to live in the ocean. And so, but that's the thing, you don't ever hear the shark saying, I wish I could go back to that pond, or I wish I could live in that little fish tank, where there's no food, there's no space for him. He loves being where he is. He loves doing what it is that he is, a shark. And so you kind of need to see yourself as that, this little level of sacrifice, and you don't know how long it could take. This could really blow up quick for you. You could come up in like 6 months, or it could take 3 years. You don't know. But I don't think it's going to take that long for anybody, especially in this level of solitude where you're just grinding, you're staying down, you're focused. You know what it is that you want, and everything that you do is with a level of intentionality. And so when you emerge, and it's not that you're never going to come out or you're never going to pop out ever again, but when you do, people are going to see you, and people are just going to think that this came out of nowhere, and they're going to think that, how was this possible? We just knew that you were in this pond with us. You used to come and do thing with us, and now you're over here living it up, living this dream life that we all dreamed of. And I remember you used to tell us about these things, but now it's like you are doing that. And of course, then those type of people, they are opportunistic. They're going to try to come for you. They're going to come try to, slime you 100, slime a little 1,000, we go back, we go way back. And at the end of the day, you don't fit in those rooms no more. You don't belong there. And it's like, where were those people in that silence, in that solitude? They didn't care. They didn't care when you were trying to help them out in the beginning. And so it helps you so much. And that's why solitude truly is a necessary part of the journey as a man, becoming who it is that you want to become. And then now when you are this person, you don't want to go back to that pond. You are now living with the big fish. You are now in the ocean. And now all the relationships that you kind of will attract and the relationships that you are around, they are going to be kind of representative of who you are, or similar type people. Let's say intimate relationship. Like your relationship no longer will be structured around broke activities. You'll have your own apartment, you'll have your own car, you'll have your own means. You don't have to, follow a curfew. I just say that because I'm a kid, and these are things that I have to struggle with in my last relationship, and things that I hated. You're able to be your own man, do your own thing. And, man, it's just a part of life. And so if you are in your, season of solitude, just know that I'm here with you, man. I'm not, you're not alone. You might feel alone right now, but you're not. We're all grinding. And I'm going to see you there at the top, bro. I promise you, I'm going to see you there. And it's going to be a sweet, sweet, sweet ride. You're going to look back and you'll be like, damn, those were the good old days. Well, that's everything that I had on my mind. Peace out, y'all. I love y'all. See y'all next time.